London for Londoners, Scotland for Scottish, Wales for Welsh.
Well, Uganda for Ugandans.
Uganda for Uganda. Rhodesia for Zimbabwean people, not for the white minority regime. And South Africa and Southwest Africa for the black majority.
His plane swept in a full hour ahead of schedule. President Amin is by now a master of the unexpected arrival. It's one way he's avoided so many attempts to kill him in his 7-year reign. A hurried stroll round sparsely provisioned exhibits followed his arrival. Some of them, like Makerere University, can hardly feel that they've prospered under his influence. The toll of dead and missing there is a long one. Then it was to bands and marching, his favoured pseudo-Scots pipers much in evidence. Here in the heart of his own tribeland, his tribesmen dominate the crack Marine Corps. It is these men, the Kakwas, with whom President Amin has surrounded himself in protection from the more numerous tribes in the south. Moses and Mwanga Amin, two of the president's sons, show little interest in pursuing their father's footsteps. The marching and parading gathered momentum, but with no infectious feeling of enthusiasm, rather of military duty. President Amin's pride, his muscle, the armoured corps. Armoured personnel carriers and more. Designed more to confront internal threats rather than any possibility of external attack. A simple pinning on of wings for a group of British-trained girl pilots. And then, unable to resist the assembly of the world's press, the words.
I think if it has been something bad, critical of me, my people will not be happy as now. You understand? You understand what I say? But I think whatever any international community, especially the Western press, giving bad image and the picture of Uganda, that is a completely nonsense. Uganda is very peaceful and Uganda does not violate any human right.
I am not against the British, but any British citizen who is here against me or against the people of Uganda, he will face the law of the country. I am sure that nobody should harm the British. The people should continue to be the best friend of the British because the British are the one who built and trained Uganda. If we are today the best country in Africa in administrations, even now it is excellent, I want to tell you. even some of my children, I would not tell you, are being looked after by the British missionaries. I want just to, for your information, we are very happy, we enjoy. It is the only government who are misinforming the public under you, the BBC and the news media. It is the truth, but it is not actually me. I enjoy excellent relationship with the Great Britain.
Sunday, the day that President Amin decided to reprieve Mr. Hills, was the day spent by General Blair in pleasant formalities and tidying up of the ends of the agreement that he and the President had come to over Mr. Hill's fate. At the presidential command post in Kampala, General Blair was introduced to Mrs. Amin and the Amin children, the boys all dressed up in army uniform. President Amin went on great length on the couch on how much he admired General Blair and how he owed his promotion from the ranks to First Lieutenant, King's African Rifles, to this former commanding officer. The President spoke too of his great respect for the Queen. He then told us how over the past 16 hours General Blair had helped him change his mind on Mr. Hill's execution.
General Blair, after he has inspected his former battalions, and then I will brief him before he goes back to London, but from Cape Town view, he will have also a private discussion with me, with Mr. Hennessy, and also he will
have sightseeing all over Uganda because he got to see the country, because he has been my commanding officer, former commanding officer, and I love him very, very much with Major Graham, and I wanted to tell you that if it was not because of General Blair, I will not reconsider my decision of executing Mr. Hills tomorrow at 11 o'clock. But because of my respect to Her Majesty the Queen, and also my personal love to General Blair and Major Graham, and General Blair is the one who actually promoted me to the rank of full lieutenant, gave the recommendation to then General Commander-in-Chief of the East African Forces.
Then, as we left the command post, he showed us a collection of cartoons, mostly by British cartoonists of himself. He seemed quite pleased with them, despite their obvious rudeness.
That's very good.
He then drove General Blair through Kampala to his presidential lodge at Cape Town View, on the banks of Lake Victoria. We followed him there, and followed him too around a holiday flat development nearby. Flats which he hoped one day, he said, British holidaymakers would fill. He stopped every so often to answer just a few of our many questions.
I am pro-British, even in the cabinet. Everybody, even in the Defense Council, as a member of the Defense Council, know that I am one of the strongest in the government and in the Defense Council supporting the British. But the BBC did not know this. They don't know this. But I am pro-British because I've been trained by British.
But it seems, you know, what's happened in the past few weeks, the arresting of Mr. Snowden and Mr. Hills, the execution tomorrow, all seem to be terribly anti-British.
No, he made bad article, and he apologized, and also he made it. I have got the book, and he got to be tried according to the law. And even I did not know him. It was the first time for me to see him yesterday before General Blair and you, Major Ian Graham. And even he said it was the first time, he confirmed before them, that first time I am not anti-British, but it was also not me, but he was arrested because of that book, and he was tried, taken before the tribunal, and they judged the case, and I am waiting for his apology, and his apology must be in the written statement.
If he does make this apologies...
As a messenger from Her Majesty and Mr. Henney representing the British government, we do not want the case of Mr. Hills discussed now. Yes. I know the President would rather discuss it with Mr. Hennessy and I, and we're getting on to all sorts of very difficult topics, whereas the President really brought us here, very kind of him, on the way to Cape Town to do the discussion, to show off where the OAU thing had come from, so you can report back to the BBC and you can tell them whether they should have cameras at the OAU or not. And that was the purpose of him coming.
Yes. We were like flies to a piece of paper when you started mentioning anti-British propaganda and things.
Yes. I am not anti-British. I am actually working for British, supporting the British. Mr. Hennessy is my best friend, and he has been the best diplomacy I have seen in Uganda.
The two men and their advisors then went back into the presidential lodge to continue their discussions. "We must tie up loose ends," the president shouted out to us. "Go and play golf." But the loose ends seem to have been the unmaking of it all.
The Asian community had only received an invitation to send representatives to meet the president overnight, and some of them frankly admitted that they were too frightened to attend. Finally, a dozen of their leaders gathered at midday at General Amin's house, the command post as it's called, to learn their fate. Then came the diplomatic representatives of Britain, India and Pakistan. This was the first time that our man in Uganda, Mr. Richard Slater, had been officially informed of President Amin's plans to expel the Asians. The High Commissioner did have some time alone with the President, while up on the open roof, ministers sat about with nothing to do. Even the diplomats were left waiting uncomfortably for the president to arrive, with only a smile from Uganda's roving ambassador, the former Princess Elizabeth of Toro, to brighten what must have been for them a painful situation. When President Amin finally appeared, he asked his guests to join him in a buffet lunch. By inviting everyone together in the presence of the press, he'd effectively denied any single envoy or Asian spokesman the opportunity to influence his decision. His mind was made up, his statement already in his pocket. Those who had come hoping to negotiate found themselves merely an audience. It was clear that the president was standing firm on his decision to expel as many Asians as possible. With the exception of professional men, technicians and civil servants, not only British Asians, but those of Indian and Pakistani nationality would have to go too. And even those who claimed to be Ugandan citizens would have to prove it all over again if they were to stay. The president denied that his decision was either racialist or anti-British. The mass expulsion was purely in the interests of Uganda's economy.
Actually, I took this decision for the economy of Uganda. And I must make sure that every Ugandans get a fruit of independence. Since independent, actually Uganda is not yet independent, I will say that. Even when the British handed over on the 9th of October 1962, the Uganda is still not yet independent. Uganda will be independent after this, my decision, after I want to see that the whole Kampala street is not full of Indians. It must be proper black and administration in those shops is run by the Ugandans.
Would you like to get all Asians out, really, sir?
Yes, they must go to their country.
Even nationals of Uganda?
If they want to go, they are welcome to go.
What will happen to these people if they don't go by the time they're in?
I think they will be sitting like they are sitting on the fire. I will tell you this. You just wait after 3 months.
What will you do to them?
Okay, you will see.
You said you wanted Uganda.
I think they will not sit comfortable here in Uganda. I will tell you this. I must actually tell you the truth.
Have you asked the British to take them away, sir?
That you are building transit camp for them if they are not going?
I am not responsible for building them transit camp.
Have you asked the British to take them away, sir?
Yes, it is a British High Commissioner is here, his responsibility.
Yes.
I have told him.
You've said you wanted to teach Britain a lesson, President. Why is that?
And that is now lesson I am teaching the British. I am teaching now the lesson because I am correcting them from the mistake they had made. If they had think before earlier that there is African here who can even work under building the railway with the instruction given to them by the British, this problem will not happen.
Isn't this going to end your friendship with Britain?
I don't mind ending. What are you giving me? What is more you are giving me? British actually deceived me last year, giving me £10 million. They never give up to now. When I had a really very critical problem of finance, up to now. Now I don't want that money again. And now they have given, I think every year, 4.5 million every year. But this, even if they withdrawn or they take it away, it will not marking time Uganda even 1 minute. I must make this clear. But the British are my best friends. I
wish I understood that.
As the interview ended, the British High Commissioner, a lonely figure as he stood surrounded by Ugandan ministers, felt he must speak.
I explained to you this morning the difficulties which my government foresees in what you were proposing this morning and what you have announced this afternoon. And I would like to make it clear that I had to reserve my government's position on the rate of admission of our Asian passport holders, UK passport holders, the responsibility for which we accept and have never denied. But the position of my government on that question, on the rate of admission, has clearly got to be reserved, and I have now got to report what you have decided and seek further instructions. And I would only like to conclude by thanking you for your friendly references to the British personally and for your hospitality.
It was an extraordinary spectacle, and in its dialogue between the British High Commissioner and President Amin, open diplomacy at its most bizarre. And despite the exemptions and exceptions he's made, the President stands firm on his decision. Within 3 months, thousands of Asians will be thrust upon Britain, whether we or they like it or not. Richard Lindley, News at 10, at the command post, Kampala.